everybody, it's Nick Forster. This week's episode of Teach Me One Thing, super fun, get to hang out with our buddy Sarah Jarosz. Great musician, the pride of Wimberley, Texas, award-winning member of I'm With Her. She normally lives in New York City, but she's been hanging out in Nashville, Tennessee. And we got to catch up with Sarah, and she taught me some stuff. She didn't tell me how to cut my own hair, which I've been doing, but she told me some other stuff that's very valuable. Here it comes. Hey, check it out. It's Sarah Jarosz. Thank you for being on Teach Me One Thing.
Thank you for having me.
And I was just noticing that your apartment looks sunny and different from your kitchen in New York.
Yeah,
the image I'm seeing.
I actually have a kitchen here.
Yeah, exactly.
No kitchen in my apartment in New York. Yes, I'm in Nashville at my boyfriend Jeff Picker, great bass player. He has a house down here. He moved down here. Great guy. He moved down here
Jeff.
When he started playing with Ricky Skaggs.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very grateful to not be in the city right now, but I'm just missing it a lot and thinking about all of my friends there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because obviously if your universe is kind of centered between Nashville and New York, and you know so many people in both places, but you're probably not seeing any of them.
Yeah, no, not seeing anyone. I mean, we've just gone to the grocery store, I think 4 times in total. We've really tried to just minimize our leaving the house as much as possible and just do big grocery shops at a time and try to stretch it and just, yeah. So we haven't seen anyone. It's just been the two of us.
Have you gotten to the point where you're cutting your own hair yet?
No. I'm actually kind of happy to, I have it back now in a ponytail, but I'm sort of happy to just let it grow and see what happens.
I gave myself so far 2 haircuts just because my hair just gets big. It doesn't get long.
Yeah, I'm impressed. It looks great.
Well, listen, what do you want to teach me today?
Let me grab it from the fridge real quick.
Oh, you have something prepared.
So, well, first of all, when you asked me to be on this show, you had, mentioned it could be music, culinary, cultural, and you being one of the reasons that I started playing music in the first place, it felt like a stretch that everything musically, I don't know what I would be able to show you that you haven't shown me.
Thank you.
So, as a lot of people have been getting into in this quarantine. Oh, speaking of the devil.
Hey, Nick. Good to see you, man.
I am in the kitchen here, as you can tell. But
as long as he didn't pull out a beer, then I think everything's okay.
He didn't pull out a beer.
Okay.
A little early for that.
But I have been getting really into sourdough cooking, baking bread, which a lot of people have. But so the thing that I'll teach you is I was not aware until quarantine that you could make your own sourdough starter. So I thought that you had to get it from someone, acquire it from a friend. That's sort of
handed down over the generations, the sourdough starter.
Exactly. And that's anytime that anyone that I had ever talked to about sourdough starter, that's how it was referred to as, oh, so-and-so came over to the house and they brought their grandmother's sourdough starter, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know until I read this King Arthur Flour article that all you need is flour and water. So I think the thing that I would say is persistence is key in this scenario. I think I was mixing the flour and the water for 6 days in a row. Nothing happened. There was no activity. And on the 7th day, I woke up and it had doubled in size. I've actually had it in the fridge now because I haven't been baking every day.
So you have to slow it down.
You don't have to, but if you don't slow it down, then it requires more. It's a living thing. It requires regular feedings if you don't slow it down.
So you've created your own companion in quarantine.
Yes.
So there's now 3 of you in the
There's
house
now
instead
3
of
of
2.
us. My friends in the sourdough realm had suggested giving the sourdough starter a name because it is a living thing. So Jeff actually suggested Eustace,
Eustace.
which is Greek for fruitful, or so that seemed like an appropriate name. So Eustace, when I'm not baking on a regular basis, he hangs out in the fridge, and then I only have to feed him once a week. But if I'm keeping him on the counter, then basically what you do is you kind of have to, in order to feed, to keep it alive, you have to discard some of it. So
I want to get back to the very beginning. So what kind of flour are you using, first of all?
Well, it's funny because flour is kind of hard to come by right now in a lot of grocery stores. So I was nervous because that was the one thing of the recipe that I wasn't following. A lot of recipes, but the King Arthur one specifically says use unbleached all-purpose flour to do your feedings. The store just had Pillsbury, like, bleached all-purpose flour. And so I think when I started and I mixed 113 grams of the bleached all-purpose flour and 113 grams of water, and nothing happened for 6 days, there was a part of me that was like, this is because
You don't have the right flour.
I don't have the right flour. But then at least what I feel like I've learned from this is that you can be a little, as long as you're consistent with the type of flour that you're feeding it, you can be a little, like, I don't think bleached or unbleached really matters that much. What I have read is that it's pretty hard to kill these things. Like, they could go, once it's started,
Eustace is hardy now.
Eustace is hardy now. So I think that if I switched to whole wheat flour 1 week, that it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah. And so you mix equal parts water with equal parts flour. Mm-hmm. And in your recipe, it calls for 155 grams or whatever
113.
it was. 113 grams. Okay,
which
very
seems
specific.
to work out in, like, a jar about this size, because when it rises, you don't want to have it in too small of a jar so it's overflowing.
And it has to be in a jar that seals perfectly?
Well, it's funny because I read up a lot. You don't want it to necessarily be extremely airtight. Like, so I could actually just, like, these, I could just have it
You
with
leave
this.
it unlatched, yeah.
Yes. Basically what you're doing is you're capturing the yeast that's just in the air, like the environment, and sort of like rounding it up to sort of do its thing. So
these are both very unsettling concepts, by the way, Sarah. That, first of all, that there's yeast just floating around in the air.
Right.
And second of all, that you can create this living creature just with flour and water, and they're very hard to destroy.
It is kind of wild. It's been a fun experiment, though.
And so what's the result?
Well, I have some loaves over here. These actually didn't rise quite as much as some other ones that I've been doing, but you can see there.
Oh, wow.
They're delicious. I mean, it's so yummy. I mean, I will say, like, now we've had a lot of bread in the last month or so. So I'm starting, as we can kind of start to maybe see 1 or 2 people at a time at a safe distance, I want to start sort of bringing bread around to my friends.
Yeah. But meanwhile, you can tell Eustace to chill out a little bit.
Exactly. That's why he's in the fridge right now.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, okay, I can't feed you morning and night, right? Like, every day.
Wow. And then the one part I don't still understand is how, when you have to get rid of some of Eustace after he's been growing, how do you know which part to get rid of?
It's all the same. So, I mean, this is I've been discarding when you're feeding regularly and he's on the counter. You're discarding morning and night.
All right. Well, listen. Here's the thing. I'm going to ask you to send me, so when people see this and they want to learn more, because obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about. So, you could just send me that King Arthur flour recipe, and you could send me the New York Times recipe.
Yes.
And then people can make their own their sourdough starter, and they can name them however they want. They can create them as companions during these days of social isolation, and it also gives you a little regular schedule, right? In your day, you got to do this every 12 hours. So, I've got to feed Eustace. I've got to change this whole thing around, right?
Exactly.
Let me ask you two things. One, if you were living by yourself in a small apartment in New York, is any aspect of this would be unsettling or creepy for you to just do this if you were by yourself?
No.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. Okay, cool.
No, I don't think that my little tiny oven in my New York apartment could handle the high heat factor of needing to get the oven that hot for baking bread.
But there's nothing about this organism living in your apartment that would have been unsettling for you.
No.
Okay,
if anything,
cool.
It would have been comforting. There's
good.
another living, vibe in the apartment.
That's cool. Okay, that's good to know. And then the other thing I want to know is, what's your whole summer schedule has been disrupted, right?
Yeah.
So, as a touring working musician, what's your world like? Obviously you and Jeff are there, and you're both in the same boat because he had a full schedule probably with Ricky for the summer, and you had your own full schedule. So, how are you adjusting to that entirely open calendar?
I mean, in general, like I said early on, we're so grateful to have this space that we can be in, and even with access to the outside and not be around people, just be sitting in a chair in the sun has been wildly helpful, I think, for both of our mental states, doing a little gardening and planting, et cetera. And, it's hard. Particularly, the timing for me, I have a new record coming out on June 5th. And was excited to announce a huge summer tour and all this stuff. And so I think maybe the trickiest thing for me is that, a lot of people have been asking, have you been feeling musically creative and productive in this time? And to be totally honest, I haven't, because I just finished recording a record. So timing wise, it's I just had this big outburst of creativity and writing and being really productive. And so in a way, I'm kind of in this place where it's now I have all this time, but I just had this outpouring.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of perfect. It's the end of a chapter. And so now you're just in between chapters. And, and you're learning more things and you're hanging out. And if people want to find out about your new record, they just go to your website.
They can go to sarahjarosz.com, and all the tour dates will be there. Someday
imaginary tour dates.
The imaginary tour dates, in 2 years or something. Yeah. But no, I'm excited I think at this point, I just want the music to be out. The hardest part is now waiting because I just want people to have it. And I'm really excited about these songs. It's an adjustment for sure. And I'm still trying to, there's a lot of, videos and kind of trying to figure out how to keep people engaged online. But just working through it all. And I think in the end, it's all anyone can do is just take it one day at a time. I think that when I get overwhelmed is when I think about the big picture and try to think about it all at once. And it's really, it's just take it one day at a time. And that's why this is so helpful, because it really makes me just focus on the day and it's fun.
Well, Sarah, we're so proud of you. You're award winning in every conceivable dimension and so talented. And we're really looking forward to hearing your new record. And thanks for teaching me something about sourdough that I had absolutely no idea about. And thanks for participating in Teach Me One Thing.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
Great to see you. Great to get a little glimpse of Jeff along the way, too.
Good. Thank you so much.
Okay. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.